Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
I'm cold.
Yeah, it's getting a little nippy. Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's having a great, wonderful day, or had a great, wonderful day. Today, before it gets really cold for us over here, we decided that, you know what? Let's go through the steps of trying kind of two different ways, just to see which one kind of goes faster, on rendering Bella over here.
So we're going to teach you or show you how we render lard, but we're going to try two different methods. One is
chopping it up into, you know, like little cube strips like everybody would do, and if you have a little grinder, I'm going to use the, you know, little big wheel on it or disc and grind it and see if chopping it up into little pieces or grinding melts it faster, which way, you know, just for curiosity. I'm pretty sure the grind up stuff's going to melt faster, but we'll see. Alright, you ready?
It might be the same.
Yeah, it could be the same too. Who knows? That way you'll know if it's that big of a deal to break out your grinder if you got it, dirty it all up, then have to clean it all up.
It might not even be worth it.
And it may not even be worth taking all that time to do. So, let's find out. Good little fan. Alright, so I'm just pulling it all out, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't really matter. I mean, but the more the meat and stuff that you can actually get off of the fat, the less, you know, piggy oink oink flavor you're going to have in the lard, especially if you're wanting to use it for baking. Now, baking, your best one would be the leaf lard, which is the internal fat around the organs and stuff like that.
But we didn't ask them to separate it.
To separate out, it's probably in the bag somewhere. And that's your best for baking. So I'm actually going to try to look for all that to see if I can kind of separate that out.
It does have a different texture.
It does have a little bit of a different texture, and it's not going to have any meat and stuff attached to it, so it won't get that piggy flavor, or, you know.
Piggy flavor?
Piggy flavor. Oh. Or oinky oink flavor, you know.
Okay.
But I'm going to try to take out as much as, you know, try to chop off some of that meat pieces. I mean, you don't have to. That's the whole point of rendering it. It's going to go, you know, in there.
Make crackling.
Because you're going to strain this. And I just took this out of the fridge, so it's still got a little stiffness to it. So it'll be easier to cut up and chop up.
Oh, that's a lot of lard.
Right? Alright. Well, I'm going to get to chopping and cutting. Let's see how this works. Alright, and so yeah, this is like the leaf lard. It's a little smushier feeling.
That's the right word for it.
And it'll normally have this membrane still on it, which, you know, that will, you don't have to really take it off or anything. That'll, you know, cook off. That's why you're doing all this. We're going to use roaster pans. There's many different methods you can use for this.
Now, we're not going to separate any leaf lard we find from the regular, just because we're not using this pig to do any baking. We're probably going to use the majority of this for soaping, and then we'll keep some for Jeff to use in the kitchen.
Alright, so far, like I said, I'm just taking off some of this little meaty parts, just to more guaranteed less oink oink flavor. I mean, it's not that much on there, but now I can tell you that grinding so far might be still kind of faster for the fact that you don't have to chop it up into such small cubes each time so many passes, because, you know, you can just kind of take strips and shove it down in your grinder.
That's
So
definitely faster.
it grinds it up, you know, good and mushy, and the small using that big, what is that, 1/4 inch, probably die that's on there. So it might be quicker to grind it. Now we'll see, though, technically if this is going to turn out better than the other stuff. We'll see. I'm thinking, what do you think? Still got to clean the grinder pieces. But I think for the point of chopping in long strips, throwing through the grinder, definitely was a little
It
faster
was a lot faster.
than chopping strips and cubes to get it done. Now I'm using two 18-quart roasting pans. And you can either also do this in a crock pot or a slow cooker. You could do it in the oven in a probably one of those roasting pans or like a Dutch oven, you know, cast iron enameled or something.
Well,
probably maybe,
you could do it over a fire for that in that case.
Yeah, you can actually do it on the stovetop too. The key is you also want to use low heat. Anywhere between 2 to about 250-ish.
You want it to be low.
You want it to be low. It takes a while because you got to wait for all this to render down, of course. But you want to go slow, because if you have high heat on it, you're really going to get the oink oink taste.
And you're just cooking it at that point.
Yeah, so you don't want to do it too fast. So around 2 to 250.
You just want to melt it.
All it's doing is basically just melting. So we've got our ground up stuff over here. We've got the cubed up stuff over there. And then of course you want to come back and you're going to want to, you know, stir it around and everything else. Now, I'm also doing this method with, a lot of people will say, you know, put a little water in there so it doesn't really stick or anything like that. I'm trying to see if we're going to do some tests, because when you get done filtering it and everything else and putting it in your jars or whatever you put it in, most of the time you just want to put it like in the refrigerator or the freezer so that it'll stay really long. It's meant to be
it's shelf stable.
Self-stable.
Shelf.
But
if you add water to it,
then it's not going to be shelf stable, because the water moisture, I mean, it's already got moisture in it.
Even though you're cooking the water out, water introduces bacteria.
Yeah. So we're going to try taking probably a jar or two and see if this method is really going to be working to make it shelf stable or not. The majority of it, we'll go ahead and put it back like in the refrigerator or freezer for the make sure safety. And you don't want to cover it, because if you cover it, it's going to get the condensation and everything else.
And then you've got water.
It's just going to keep bringing water into it. So it definitely won't be. So I'm going to put these.
The camera crooked.
It could be. All right, so I'm gonna crank these to about. We'll start it.
200 sounds
We'll
good.
start it at 200. We're gonna go really low and slow.
This is an all-day process.
It's an all-day process. It's gonna take hours.
Which is fine, because it's a rainy day. So
It's a nasty day outside. Plus, you know, you can kind of do this, come back to it, stir it up, and we'll see how it comes out to you, and then we'll show you filtering it into some jars or something. All right.
sounds good.
Let's go get busy with some other projects. Alright, so we've been here for about 3 hours at 200 degrees on both of them. And the chunky stuff is, you know, still pretty good and chunky, doing pretty well. I will suggest, though, when you're doing the no water at all, putting in the bottom, you know, these roasting pans, they start heating up from the sides pretty quick. So within just a few minutes, you know, come back and kind of scrape those edges really good. The ground stuff is pretty good and runny over here. Chunky stuff, you can see we got quite a bit in there. brown stuff. You know, just smaller pieces. It almost seems like it's going about the same pace, but I would say that this looks like this is going a little faster.
I think it's going to be harder to
Going to be a little more difficult to
not get the pieces in it.
Play with filtering, but we've got a couple of ideas for filtering. Jar strainer with a little strainer there. I've got a piece of cheesecloth. It's about, what, 4 layers worth of cheesecloth. We're thinking about putting that thing down like so and doing that. That's one method. Another method we've got is this big funnel that, you know, you dump out like turkey fryer grease or whatever in those big turkey fryers with a turkey fryer oil funnel and a strainer. And this method is pretty decent, but you can see it can't go all the way down in there. So someone's got to sit here and hover.
Or you can cut it off if you don't want to use it for other things later.
And dip it. So we're going to try method number 1 first. And then I'm planning on just filling them up to like you would like if you were canning. Just to that bottom ring, basically. Now these, I'm going to put a lid on it. Hopefully the lid will actually probably just heat seal itself to it.
It should.
This is going to be my test jar that I'm going to have out to see if it's going to be shelf stable or not. We're going to find out.
Should be.
We're hoping. Alright, which one do we want to try the ladle do first?
Try the hard one first.
Try the hard one first? Alright. Suck up a little bit of this stuff.
And a bunch of chunks.
A few chunks in there. Flowing through there pretty well. And then we just dump the chunks and put it back in here. Looking pretty good and clear. Not too much of a piggy smell. I mean, it does kind of remind me of a little bit of bacon.
Really? I can't smell it.
Well, you know, the fatty part of the bacon. Of course, I'm messing with all this hot oil.
With a metal ladle.
With a metal ladle. Well, now I'm thinking about that little metal ring that I got in there that's grabbing the big piece. But then I have to pull that piece out to dump in those little pieces back in there. And hopefully we don't make a boo-boo, but I didn't think about this. You should probably make sure these jars are a little bit on the warm side. For the fact that you're pouring in hot grease into a cold jar.
You know better.
Might be a mistake. Just saying.
You know better.
Well, you know, what I know and what I do.
You're gonna burn your hand.
I can take that and kind of dump that back into there. And voila. Let's see how that looks.
Looks pretty clear.
Wipe off that rim. And we'll see if this little thing will suck down into here and actually seal with its own heat there. Alright. Well, 1 pint just to see. Whole bunch more to go. Alright, let's see how well we can do
You want me to hold it?
a 2-man job with 1 hand. Alright, we hold it like so.
Okay, I won't help you then.
Put that jar right over there. Yeah, let's see if this is going to work.
If you say so.
Sure. Alright, I guess on this stuff I can kind of just scoot it back a little bit. And
So I think that one's coming out more clear.
yeah, it looks like it, don't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, the oil filter is probably also filtering it. That's probably why it's not as clear. Because the oil filter is kind of like your coffee filter. We just use 4 layers of cheesecloth.
True.
If you probably doubled up the cheesecloth.
I think the oil filters work the best.
I'm thinking
So a
those.
coffee filter would do it.
So a coffee filter or one of these oil filters. And the only reason I have them is because, well, let's see. I got the funnel for I think 50 cents at a clearance one day. And I think I got the paper filters that go to them. I think I got them for $1. So, you know, I don't have to worry about burning my fingers. I didn't burn my finger on the other one either, so that was pretty good. But yeah, the filter, you can see, takes out a lot of that fine, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a lot of fine gunk of pieces. So I think the filter thing is the way we're going to go with this.
Absolutely.
This is running it through cheesecloth. This is running it through
an oil filter.
These are the ones that I got.
Okay.
So they work pretty good. Alright, so these are pretty good little filters, obviously, because we only did 1.5 quarts.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And you can see how much it really held back all those little, I don't know if you can see that or not, all that gunk that's down in there. And of course that was from chunk stuff, but that's from the first one going through cheesecloth. And this one is going through that paper filter. And you
with the ground
both with the ground stuff. So you can see that, yeah, there's a big difference using probably like a coffee filter or something. Matter of fact, maybe we should see what a coffee filter looks like.
Sure.
Our same setup from the first time. Doing it with a coffee filter. Oh, but it's going to go through there real slow with a coffee filter. Woo.
Yeah, it is.
That is going to take forever to go through on a coffee filter.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. I don't think I got that much time.
Not much patience. But it does work. Just...
It's working, and it'll probably be super clear, I guess, but whoo, that's gonna take a bit.
So that's a no for us on the coffee filters.
Yeah. 8 layers of cheesecloth. See what that looks like.
Well, at this point, you might as well just buy the oil filters.
Yep, pretty much. Because the cheesecloth is, well,
not cheap.
$5 and something for 2 pieces of cheesecloth. Well, let's make sure we hit the middle there.
You make a mess. What about a tea towel?
Hey, you might be able to run through that too, right?
I would think.
Well, that's coming out, I think, a lot clearer.
I think it's more clear, but I still don't think it's as clear. But
Yeah.
go ahead and finish, and we'll see for sure.
But 8 layers. You can still see there's quite a bunch of gunk on there. But it's pretty close. 8 layers is pretty close to the funnel filter. Alright, so now that's pulling off 3 quarts now. We're down to not much in there, so now we gotta let this kind of redo its thing. Now, there's also other ways you can still do this. If you want it, like, I guess, really super clear, you can do a filtration twice on it.
Oh, or a second rendering.
Or a second rendering. You can also, just as soon as you start seeing a little bit of grease come out, you can do it. I've also heard some people, they just let it cook all the way down, but pretty sure if you did that, you get a lot of pork flavor in it. And that's the case, you know, your little crackling pieces that will be in there, you know, they'll sink to the bottom and then they'll float to the top, and then you know that it's all completely rendered. And with our filtering system, we like the funnel one, but it clogs up pretty quick using the ground up stuff, because I think there's so much extra, when you grind it, there's so much extra small pieces of fat in there. The 8 layers of cheesecloth, of course, is the fastest and comes out pretty good. 4 layers seemed a little cloudy, but I think the 8 layers of cheesecloth isn't too bad. And of course, it goes the fastest. It pours through the quickest. So that if you want to do something, I think 8 layers would be good. I should have been marking the top of these drawers though.
I prefer the oil filter with the
Yeah.
chunky lard.
Now the chunkier lard here, it's not so ground up, so you're not going to have a lot of that real fine pieces in the grinder. So pros and cons on each thing. Grinding it seems like you can get it started faster than taking the time to cut all the chunks up.
And it seems to render faster.
And render faster, but the keeping it as bigger chunks and letting it slowly go down, it'll filter easier. So pros, cons on each one. They all work. It just depends on how much time you want to spend and do and use. So
we'll come back when it's all done and see.
Yeah. Alrighty. All done. This is the first jar. You can see it's really nice and white. But after 12 hours of rendering, you can kind of see there's a little bit of a difference in the color. 225 seemed like a really good. We said 2 to 250. I think 225.
225 worked really well for us.
Really great for us. So, I mean, it worked pretty good, you know. And then we just, did them, put them in the refrigerator, to hold them off. So, I'm going to kind of open up one of these jars and see what the consistency looks like to see if it's actually good enough. And
yeah, we haven't opened one up yet.
yeah, and I just put the lids on and they self-sealed. So
because of the heat.
It should have hopefully got out the air, so they should be shelf stable. Plus we also didn't put any water in it to help it not stick. So those first few minutes, make sure you kind of stir it up a little bit until it starts breaking it down.
Yes.
It's a nice pretty white. And that's got a lard consistency to it.
It's beautiful.
Really pretty. Look at there. But yeah, that's a good thick lard base.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really smell like nothing.
Doesn't smell porky.
So it doesn't smell picky. So that's good. I don't know. Might work pretty good. We're gonna have to try it out for sure. Alrighty, well, I hope that helped out a few questions that people might have. Turned out pretty well for us. So I hope y'all have a great and wonderful one. And can't wait to see y'all till next time. Later.
Yeah, much darker.
Yeah.
For the one that sat.
It doesn't come off the spoon.